It's difficult to be subjective about this film in a lot of ways because it's so monumental and nothing quite like it had ever been done before. And this was really the birth of a new art form. And you can see that in the ways that it is trying different things. And I don't think we will ever get a shift like this again.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and today we are diving way back into Disney history and talking about the film that started it all, the feature film that is. I know there are plenty of Disney shorts that predate this one, but Walt Disney's very first feature film that launched the Disney empire as we know it today, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is arguably the most famous version of Snow White ever made. I've covered a bunch of versions on every version ever this year, but I don't think any of them are as universally known and beloved as Walt Disney's original adaptation. This will be the first of a three-part miniseries with Callum from Once Upon a VHS and Jenna West, better known by some online as Phantom Wise. Our original idea was to do 2 episodes, one covering the original 1937 animated classic, and then come back and talk about the live-action remake from earlier this year, which we're still doing, but as we go through this episode you'll notice another version come up more than once, the 1916 silent film that was one of Walt Disney's earliest inspirations as a kid. So after we recorded this episode, we decided to go back even further and talk about that original silent version before jumping back to the present and tackling the latest version. Anyway, today's episode is a long one, so let's just dive right in and talk about Walt Disney's original 1937 masterpiece, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So I figured for this one, since this is like one of those iconic films that everyone has probably seen a million times,
Hmm.
I thought I would see if you wanted to share when you first saw this one. For me, I remember I was a kid. This wasn't one that we watched a lot, and I don't remember whose house it was, but I remember where I was when I saw it for whatever reason. Because I think this is one that I knew was out there, but it was never one that we borrowed from the library. And the first chance we got to see it, we were at, I think it was like a family friend's house or something, and they had this one, and we're like, we've never seen this one. We have to watch this movie. But it wasn't one that was like on repeat like some of the others. Like with me, Bambi was like by far my favorite, with Fantasia close behind. I watched those anytime I got a chance. This one I watched once in a while, but it wasn't like a must see. But I still remember the first time I saw it.
So for me, to be honest, I don't remember what I thought when I saw it because I was very young. So I remember the circumstances around it more than I do my memories from watching the film for the first time. So I was pretty much a toddler, a very young child at least, when this movie came out on VHS tape in the 90s, and it was a very big deal. I remember the adults talking about what a big deal it was for Disney movies to be on VHS tape for, to watch at home.
Hmm.
As a kid, I'm just like, um, you know, have you ever seen this is so random. Have you ever seen the viral video clip of like a mother telling her 2 daughters in the car that we're going to Disneyland? And the older daughter's freaking out. The youngest daughter just looks really confused. That was me, just the Chloe, I think her name's Chloe, just being like, I don't get it. Like, apparently, I was told that it was the first movie I sat partially through, so I must have liked it, but I don't remember my actual thoughts on first time watching.
I remember the release of that VHS as well. I think it must have been for the 60th anniversary in
Oh,
1997.
yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah, 60 years. So I remember it being this white clamshell VHS, and yeah, it was because it was coming out of the Disney Vault. It felt like a real special occasion, this release. And at the same time, I remember there was a soundtrack release on cassette,
Mm.
and I had both the cassette and the VHS. But I am sure that when I was little, I had been on the Snow White Scary Adventure ride at Disney World before I had seen the movie.
Oh.
So yeah, so I think I was familiar with the story from fairy tale like storybooks. And I had been on Snow White Scary Adventure, and I guess I must have seen like clips or maybe on the sing-along song videos, like little bits of Snow White, but it wouldn't have been until 1997 in that VHS release that I saw it, watched the whole movie at home. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite Disney movies, even though, that was we had Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid were my other two favorites at that point. But yeah, Snow White was up there for me when I was little.
Looking at it, the VHS, I don't know about for you, but in America it came out in 1994 with tracks because that was
Ah.
1992. But I do remember the 60th anniversary as well. So I went for a second. I was like, wait a minute, was I old? No, okay, yeah, it both because there's so much. It was such a huge event. I remember there being like so much merch for it. Um,
Yeah.
I had quite a bit. I had a Snow White birthday cake that year. I was older.
Oh yes, you're
Uh,
right. Yeah, it was 1994 on UK VHS as well. Yeah, so that must have been
yeah.
the
Okay.
one that I had.
There was promotion later too for the anniversary, I believe. I think you're right as well.
Yeah, maybe I'm mixing the two of those up. Yeah, it is definitely this one with the sort of white background and the Queen hovering over the logo saying Snow White.
I actually never realized just how like good that cover was. It's a good cover.
It's great, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, might be better than what's the current cover? I have to look. What is
The
it?
I think it
It's
well, the one
better.
I have is the signature one. It's very simple. It's like a white background.
No, the one they have now apparently. Oh wait, no, that's 2009. Wow, there's been a lot of covers.
Yes.
Yeah. This white one I think is definitely my favorite one. Yeah, I don't really like the blue one with the big close-up of Snow White and the apple so much.
Yeah, I don't like that one. I think I like the VHS cover the most, but that might be nostalgia talking. I'll admit that.
I usually feel the same way. A lot of times it is nostalgia, but they did really great covers in the 90s.
Yeah, they did.
hmm
Well, I don't think I had seen this in quite a while, because this is one, like, I technically have done an episode on this, but I did it before I had started podcasting, so it was back in, I think, 2018. That might be
Oh
the
my
last
gosh.
time I watched it, because I
Mm.
just did a video review back then. Like, I hadn't even thought about getting into podcasting at that point. So, a lot of times, what I've been doing is if I covered something on a previous podcast, like on the Disney Movie Marathon, and I'm going to be covering something that'll fit into on a series for like every version ever, I'll just take the Disney Movie Marathon episode and just reuse it. But for
Mhm.
this one, I figured it's been so long since we did that, and I remember the time when we recorded that, it was I didn't really know what I was doing. The sound is kind of awful. There was like a humming in the background, I think. We were at my grandma's house and I don't know what she had running, but and it was short and I was like, I need to like actually do a proper podcast for this. So it had been quite a while since I've seen it, and I don't think, like, a lot of times when you see Snow White, especially like in more recent promotional material, it doesn't register to me like when it was made. And
Mm.
watching it this time, I was like, this is very 1930s. Just
Yeah,
all the designs, because I think Snow White is like very slightly redesigned in more recent things that she's put in, like different
yeah,
art that they do. And
yeah.
just watching her, it's like it's not Betty Boop, but there was just something about her face that was like, this is a little bit of Betty Boop in there.
Yeah, I think
Very
that
idealistic 30s beauty standards. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well as that, what I guess the more modern style has more definition to the face. And I think that's true of all the human characters, but it's probably most notable on Snow White because she's got, it's almost like her chin blends into her neck a little bit. Do you know what I mean? You've not got the cleaner lines that you get in more recent designs and the redesign of Snow White herself, actually. Yeah, it is peculiar to look back at this movie, and it's so interesting because there are aspects of it which do feel, yes, this was 1930s, not only in terms of the beauty standards like you mentioned, Jenna, but
Mhm.
yeah, technology obviously progressed a lot since then, and techniques and the way that animation is done, but there were moments in this movie because I rewatched it. It was they were showing it in cinemas, I think last this time last year, And seeing it on the big screen, some of the sequences I was like, "Oh my goodness, this looks amazing." Like some
Mm-hmm.
of the
Oh yeah.
animation is really breathtaking. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me.
By the way, if anybody's an animation nerd and you have time to do this, I highly recommend watching like everything available at least that Walt Disney has done, and then watch Snow White, they like chronological order, or
Mm,
Alice comedies to Snow White, or if you want to get really nerdy, like the Laugh-O-Grams, just watch in order. It's Snow White will blow your mind. Like because you're basically watching animation history, and you'll realize how monumental it is.
yeah.
And I did that, gosh, almost 10 years ago now, and it really like made me appreciate just how gorgeous Snow White was and how much of a breakthrough it was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now we've been so privileged to be able to watch it anytime we want. Lots of other gorgeous animated films by Disney and also other companies that we forget just. And also taking a step back here, Snow White is not the first animated film, but I would argue it's the first like monumental one
Yeah.
in the sense of like really actually being able to compete with live action films, with the storytelling in live action films. It's monumental and groundbreaking, and being able to experience that like similar to what an audience in 1937 would have experienced was I really I really treasure that I did that. I
Mhm.
highly recommend it if you have the time.
I've never thought about doing that, but I can imagine for an audience back then, that must have been mind-blowing. Because like I've watched a lot of animation from before that time. I've never watched it like in order.
Mm.
So because like I watch from all different eras, so I haven't thought much about how big of a breakthrough this was. Though this time that I was watching it, there were sequences that I was like, this is just amazing. Like the way that fabrics move.
Yes.
Like that was one of my favorite things. Just watch like the scene with the queen running down the stairs and her cape flowing behind her. It's
Hmm.
like this just looks so amazing.
I mean, look at the backgrounds; they're gorgeous.
Yes, the paintings. Like I feel like I say this all the time, but I wish Disney would do like they don't have to completely abandon what they're doing now, but just once in a while go back and do something that like this. Do something with painted backgrounds and hand-drawn animation. It's a work of art.
My boyfriend and I were just watching Cinderella today, like earlier, and the way, the dress transformation with the sparkles and just being like, people drew all those
Hmm.
sparkles.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a human element that
Yes.
are in these older animated films, especially with Snow White. Like I feel like there are points where especially with how HD it could be nowadays, you could see the brushstrokes, you could see how intricate it is, and it's just this breathtaking, gorgeous human element that I feel like movies are missing nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because it's computer that they're worth less, but I
Mm-hmm.
am saying like I wish that we could still have it.
Yes.
Hmm.
No, I feel the same way a lot with a lot of stuff that I watch. Like, computers have their place, and I don't want them to completely get rid of CGI, but I like a good mix, and it seems like we're stuck in a rut these days where everything just kind of looks similar. And to go back and watch something like this, it's just a night and day difference. It's like I don't love everything about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs because there were parts where I kind of got a bit bored with the dwarves. But
Mm,
for the most part, it's watching a work of art. It's like a moving painting. It just looks
I
so
agree.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
it makes me kind of sad we might not see anything like this again, unless it's like an indie art film.
Yeah, there are studios that are doing some things, but a lot of them don't have enough budget to do something like this. Like there are other studios that do 2D hand-drawn animation, but they are very simple looking. And that's not to say they're bad and the stories aren't good because they are. They're very well done for what they are. But just like making something that looks like a painting that can move, you don't see these days.
Actually, that's something I thought about, like, because I remember, sorry, a little bit of a tangent. I remember back in my Tumblr days, somebody made an art piece of that was like an impressionist painting, but in a Disney style, and being like, in their caption was, "I had a thought, what if Disney like did a movie in the style of impressionism?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a neat idea," but I was like, why don't they try to do stuff like that nowadays? Like you could still do make it look like art with computer animation, but it just feels like a lot of anime movies are kind of stuck in the photorealistic. Like they're not
Mm-hmm.
trying to be more artistic. I don't know, it just seems odd to me.
Yeah,
Why not have fun with it?
I think that's the thing. I think Disney and so many of the other mu movie studios and media companies are so risk averse
Yeah.
nowadays,
Yes.
that making any big swings, and that's the thing. At the time of production, like people were calling this Disney's folly, right? They thought
Yeah.
that this was, how is he spending all of this money on a cartoon, like a feature-length cartoon? It just, it blew people's minds, and they really didn't see how that could succeed until they actually saw the finished product. And yeah, it's difficult to be subjective about this film in a lot of ways because
Mm.
like you mentioned, it is so monumental and nothing quite like it had ever been done before. And we will. I don't think we will ever get a shift like this again. This was really the birth of a new art form, and you can see that in the ways that it is trying different things. It feels
Mm.
like it is a little bit of a mixture, like you mentioned, John. The some of the stuff with the dwarves I found a little bit boring because it almost felt like an extended silly symphonies
Yes, that's
Mm.
exactly how I
Yeah.
felt.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not really such a huge fan of anime or kind of cartoons that are just that, like the silly symphony stuff. That doesn't do much for me. I prefer there to be a bit more plot and character interaction and things like that. And yeah, this was the first movie that married those elements in this way. And yeah, it is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it, like what this film was able to achieve. And obviously it made stacks of money. It was critically well received, but it was such a huge risk that Walt Disney was taking in putting this together because there was no guarantee that it would succeed.
I think, talking about Walt's risk here, I think this is where the Disney company is failing a lot nowadays.
Hmm.
Which,
Mm,
and I say this with love, obviously. I love the Disney company. It's very close to my heart. Um, but that's kind of the problem is I feel like they've kind of lost the heart of their storytelling right now. And actually, it's not just Disney. I think it's an industry-wide, entertainment industry-wide problem right now is there
Hmm.
doesn't seem to be a lot of storytelling coming from the heart right now, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of risk taking. Walt was very good at being able to reach out to people with stories that touch deep inside. Again, I just saw Cinderella, and I actually started tearing up at one point. Um, but like Snow White too, there's such a like I don't know about you two, but at least for me, when I've watched Snow White, and I always somehow forget this, but when I am watching it, I think about like how much I want Snow White to succeed because
Hmm.
of just how much I like her as a character. Um,
mm-hmm.
it actually kind of distresses me. I'm not distressed, that's not the right word, but disappoints me when people don't like her because I'm like, what is there, not really to like? She's a hard worker and she she hopes and and maybe that's why people don't like her, but it's like I don't know. I think there's strength in kindness, I guess. So I like these characters that have kindness. Um, and I'm just realizing something about myself. It's I I think it's I also think she's very nurturing. I'm like, oh, maybe I like her because I'm nurturing. But maybe this is a me thing. Maybe I'm projecting on her. But I but a lot of people do. But it's I don't know. There's something just really likable about these characters. Um, you want to see them succeed. And I just feel like that's kind of missing right now, is these stories that touch people's hearts when they watch them.
It's funny you should bring up Cinderella because obviously with Snow White being the first animated classic feature film, it borrows some elements from the Cinderella story because in most traditional tellings of Snow White, it doesn't have this element of her being like a scullery maid for the queen. That's something that has been added for this 1937 film. This idea of her
Oh,
like being made to wear rags and things like that. So it's almost like Disney thought, okay, that's an element from another fairy tale that I'll lift and put into this version of Snow White. And maybe Jenna, like you're saying with Cinderella, it makes us um, relate to Snow White a little bit more, or want
yeah,
to empathize with her a bit more because we see that she's been she's had a had a rough time of it with the stepmother treating her like a servant basically.
yeah. Well, the step in at this point, Disney wasn't actually the one to add that element to the story.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not a big okay. I have a casual interest in fairy tales and story and adaptations and storytelling, and retellings, yada yada. I don't know when that element was added to Snow White, but I do know that Disney was very, very inspired by the silent film Snow White he saw as a child.
I was going to say,
And
I haven't
that's
seen it yet, but I was looking
yeah,
into that one as a potential one to cover because I had read
do
that. So I wonder if that is one.
yeah,
I wonder if
do
that's where.
cover it. It's actually quite good. And when you're
Okay.
watching it, it's a good film. And when you're watching it, you'll be like, wow, this is a lot like the Disney Snow White. But it came first. It is really you'll see a lot of inspiration. Like the dwarves have personalities, for instance, is a really big one. Snow
Okay.
White is a scullery maid. So there's a lot of elements. If you love the Disney Snow White, I highly recommend checking out the silent film. It's quite good, and Snow White is so like the actress for her is so likable and charismatic. Um, it's kind of a shame it's kind of fallen from the public eye, but that's kind of the fate of silent films. But I would say it's one of the like classic silent films. It should be at least. It should be up there with Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch more silent films, especially for the podcast, but like it's not something that I'd ever watched as a kid. Like I didn't watch silent films other than maybe some Our Gang shorts.
Yeah, I need to
We
watch
had
more
some of
too.
those. But like to
Um,
just watch a short film, I haven't watched a ton except for the podcast, so I'm trying to find more to watch. So I thought I should look into some of those for this series because I know there's a bunch.
yeah, I do agree that it does make that is part of why Snow White is more relatable and probably why it was added to the story of her. Like, yes, she's royalty, but she's almost a peasant because she has to do these chores and
Hmm.
um but she deserves more, because I think in our heart of hearts we always feel like we deserve more ourselves. We want more. And yeah, so it gives her a human element. I think also like I don't know, for me growing up, I always loved how Snow White can interact with animals and they're never afraid of her. It's not relatable because that's not the case with me at all. But I wish, or I don't know, sometimes I can. I did charm a very grumpy cat who has bitten people once. Who was perfectly fine with me. So, that's my Snow White moment. But I love that she's able to do that, and it implies that she has such a safe presence that even animals are comfortable around her. Yeah, but classic Disney princessism. But
That is kind of a thing. That
yeah,
Hmm.
like all three of the early ones do that.
yeah. But yeah, Snow White's the start of that for Disney princesses. That wasn't an established thing.
Yeah, the animals are so cute, and I think it also ties in with that nurturing aspect of Snow White as a character, as
Yeah,
I guess as a sort of a 1930s by way of the, whatever the kind of Grimm brothers telling of Snow White came from, but yeah, this sort of idealized girl or woman who cares for the dwarves, you know, she's cooking and cleaning and she's, she's doing all of these tasks. And, I guess we can kind of talk about how things have changed in how Snow White might be represented nowadays. And obviously there's been the recent live action
Oh
remake,
yeah,
which has done some done some work
changes.
to made some
I
changes,
haven't
yeah.
seen it yet. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've been waiting to record this as a before and
Hmm.
after for the
Yeah,
podcast.
same.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but I am curious on how they do that because I know for a lot of people that kind of thing doesn't bode well to them nowadays. Personally, for me, I do see it as kind of I don't want to use the word relatable, but like I do take care of the people I love. So like
Hmm.
for me it's not a bad thing, but I understand for a lot of women or even actually a lot of people, it might not just be women, they don't want that for themselves.
Hmm.
So maybe they don't relate to someone in that aspect, which is fair. So I'm interested, and I don't know. I have a very strange, I guess I have a very strange position on the live action remakes in general because I don't like them, but I don't, whenever I talk to them, people like they have bad reasons for not liking them, in my opinion. Um, because I'm like, a lot of them are like hating on Snow White for even daring to change the story at all, and I'm like, No, I haven't seen it yet, but no, let's take a step back here. We've always retold stories. Then
Hmm.
Hmm.
Snow White, not an original Disney story. It is a fairy tale. Disney doesn't have like it doesn't need to be told just like the Disney version every single time. We could change things.
Yeah.
And that's what makes adaptations and retellings interesting.
Yes.
Otherwise, what's the point? I like that kind of stuff. So I'm like, that's a bad reason not to like it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Um,
same. I mean, I've
yeah,
dedicated an entire podcast to it, so
yeah. So I'm interested in seeing the change with that because from what I understand, I've heard it said derogatorily that she's a girl boss, but I don't know what that means yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that means.
yeah.
Um, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I
Hmm.
don't know. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I was, if it's a criticism on how they do it, then that's fair.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think the change in itself is bad.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's how it's done and how it's implemented and what it does to the overall story that you're telling, I
Yeah,
guess. And yeah,
yeah.
and I think even in this version of Snow White, in this 1937 version, as you mentioned, stories are told and retold, and elements are added in or taken out. And this is something that I've mentioned, Jonathan, when we've been talking about like the Shelley Duvall's fairy tale theatre adaptations of some of these fairy tales. It is always interesting to see which elements are seen as like the core elements
Yeah.
of a telling of Snow White. So things that are in, in other versions of the tale, like where you've got the laces and the poisoned comb that the queen
Mm.
tries to kill Snow White with, the fact that the Disney version takes those out, and yeah, I would assume that the earlier versions maybe kind of condensed the story as well by limiting it to just the poison apple. It also perhaps makes Snow White a bit more relatable in that she's not falling for the same trick three times over,
Oh
but
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm trying to remember. I actually can't remember if that's in the silent film or not. I think it is, as
Hmm.
well, but I can't remember. So don't quote me on that. It's been a
I
while.
have yet to see any that do all three from the original fairy tale. I'm sure there's some out there, but I have yet to see one myself for the podcast.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the canon.
it's very unrelatable.
Hmm. I think the kind of movie Tales version does all three attempts. I think there are a couple of other versions too, but yeah, like you say, Jenna, just Snow White, why are you falling for this over and over again? Yeah.
Thinking about it, I guess in some way, I guess in some ways that's kind of realistic to people in real life.
Mm.
I know I've gone through, 30 years on this planet. I've gone through realizing, um, more than 30. I got through realizing that I have a pattern of behavior where I keep making the same mistakes.
Mm,
And like so part of me is kind of like, actually, I guess someone falling for something 3 times can be
mm,
realistic.
hmm.
Um, but my goodness, it really doesn't help you to root for her. Um, so I'm glad that the Disney condensed it to one, and it makes sense for most of these adaptations to do that.
I think the only reason that, because like while I was watching it this time, I was thinking to myself, this takes place in such a short amount of time. I think the only reason that I would like more attempts on her life is to have her like spend more time with the dwarves, because really this only
Yeah,
takes place in a couple of days. But if it's
yeah,
spread out over a longer period of time, like the queen keeps coming back, like trying different things, that would make her have more time with the
with
dwarves,
Thor.
living with them, getting to know them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it feels very quick.
Yeah, I feel like actually a version where they did try all three and it was more spaced out, but it wasn't so obvious that it was her trying to kill her would be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe if there was a way you could do it where it was like Snow White it has these attempts on her life, but they're not like all the same, and so you could kind of excuse the quote unquote stupidity because it's
Hmm.
actually not that stupid of her to almost die in these instances. That might be quite interesting.
Well, I think
Um,
Callum and I had
yeah.
talked about the Shelley
Oh.
Duvall's version. That has two attempts on her life, and the Queen took two different disguises. So like it's
Mm,
still similar because it's someone coming and trying to give her something. But if the Queen is a little bit more creative rather than just putting on a peddler disguise and coming back 3 days in a row,
yeah.
that could work.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could just leave the poisoned comb on the windowsill and run away, and then just wait for Snow White to pick it up and use it, you know? Just keep it
Delivery.
simple.
Someone
Yeah.
sent you a package. It's a comb. Here you go. It's on me. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking, like, what if you change some things? Like, what if you try to shoot her with an arrow or something? I don't
Mm.
know. It could have an action sequence. But yeah, switching it would be kind of interesting if someone did that, but like switching up the attempts so it's not samey. I did look it up. The silent film version also condensed it to two, so it was Disney's idea just to have the poison apple,
Okay.
um, which works, I think. I do think for this Snow White, it would have been really boring to see all 3 attempts or even 2 attempts. So I think it was wise of them just to do the apple.
Yeah, this worked. And the
Yeah,
whole sequence of the queen preparing everything is iconic. Like we wouldn't really need to see her just do the same because if they did all three, she probably would have three similar scenes. But
yeah.
the way they did the queen, her transformation and preparing the apple is amazing. Like I don't
That's
think we need more same scenes, but the ones we got were great.
Yeah, it would lose its impact if they did it over and over again, but that is my favorite sequence in the whole movie.
I think it's mine
Uh,
too.
yeah, that whole transformation scene is pretty intense, isn't it? It's quite, I remember being a little bit frightened by it when I was a kid watching it.
It,
Oh
And
it's
yeah.
intense, but it's also a bit funny, especially after she
yeah,
becomes the hag. Like I kind of wish that she would just kind of give up her obsession with beauty and stay this character because I kind of love the
yeah,
hag.
she's having a bit more fun, isn't she? Like
Yes.
yeah.
So the Evil Queen, she's actually like such an iconic character to meet in the parks.
Mhm.
I've seen clips. She
Oh my
looks
God,
fun.
she is so much fun. One time I saw that she was coming, and I had found an apple, and I left it by the wishing well, and I ran. And I watched her from a distance, and yeah, she picked it up and was trying to offer it to people.
That's brilliant.
um, um, but like Disneyland Paris, I believe they actually have the hag as a so in the American parks, it's a sculpted character, so like a mask. They can't talk. So
Okay.
they people, to be honest, I don't find the sculpted hag very fun. Disneyland Paris, they have like a hag with prosthetics, so she
Oh
can
wow.
talk. Yeah. And she offers apples to the guest visitors. Like that's the point of the character. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so much fun too. I would love if we could do that. Um,
Yeah.
can we have both? Like she just like flips around her cloak or something and now she's the hag.
That would be hilarious and
Yeah,
genius
yeah,
if
but
somebody could rig that up.
yeah, but the evil queen is like perfection. She's the best. She's a little scary, but she's the best.
Mhm. And I think that's one of the things that I really loved about Snow White, and I still love about it is that dark sort of gothic element to Snow
Hmm.
White.
Hmm.
It maybe sits a bit uncomfortably with the silliness of some of the dwarf stuff. But the even that very opening sequence where you've got that music and it's
Yeah.
so eerie, that kind of descending scale of on the piano and the
Oh
creepy
yeah.
strings and the Queen going up to the magic mirror for the first time. Oh, it's really beautiful, and there is a darkness and a creepiness to that sequence that
Yeah,
and even when with the mask of the magic mirror appearing, there's something about the
mm,
design of it all which is quite haunting.
yeah, it's at the same time it's a very lighthearted movie. It's a very
Mm.
like
Yeah.
um it's a very good blend. I actually kind of wonder if it's kind of the time period it came about in because obviously, they experienced the Great Depression. Um
Mm.
and I feel like a lot of their media was very hopeful that time. But they were very much aware of the darkness of life. And I feel like Snow White is a really good balance between light and dark in that aspect.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way because while I was watching it, I was thinking that there was kind of some tonal shifts going on, and
Hmm.
not in a bad way, but I was like, if this would never be made this way today, because it feels too different. Like when you go from the dwarves yodeling and doing weird dances in their living room to the queen planning to poison Snow White so that she'll be buried alive. Like it's a
Yeah.
huge tonal shift, which I guess it does work, but I don't think that it would be made that way today. It doesn't like too many things that I was watching, I was like, this feels so of its time.
I think Disney later got burnt because they've always kind of tried to balance this. Again, I just saw Cinderella, and we were discussing like the if the mice were in it too much. Um,
I that's how I
yeah,
always feel when I'm watching Cinderella. Like I like Cinderella too, but I
yeah,
felt the same way with the mice scenes as I do with the dwarf scenes in that they just go on just a little bit too long.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I feel the same way.
I actually feel like the dwarf scenes are okay. I think it's actually the perfect length of time, but it does like border like right at the end of that tolerance.
Mm,
Um,
Yeah.
that said, though, like in terms of the scenes themselves, I do think they're really well done, and it's like the idea that so apparently they let animators like suggest their idea for gags, and if they ended up using your gag in the movie, they pay you. So and they just chose like the best of the best. Um, and I think these are really good. They are technically really good sequences for cartoons.
yes.
Um, and I think it's the perfect balance. I say that. I do think they're technically great sequences and the perfect balance is them not going on too long. However, at the same time, I do feel like we could have a bit more of Snow White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why can't she be more involved in these sequences? Which, ironically, have you guys noticed like that one day when they meet her is really long
Yes.
in the whole movie? When you're
I
actually
thought
thinking
I
about it,
thought that
like,
as I was
Hmm.
watching it
yeah,
this time.
yeah, like oh my gosh, it takes up like half of the film, like going through
Yeah.
the forest, finding the cottage, falling, cleaning up, going to sleep, dwarves coming home, having the sequence where they think there's an intruder and then it's her, and then she's like, I have dinner for you, yada yada, go wash your hands. And then it suddenly ends after washing your hands. It was supposed to go on even longer. There was supposed to be a music in your soup sequence. And have you guys seen it? It's actually it's a deleted
Yeah.
scene. It's available to watch though, unfinished. Um,
Yeah. I think
but
music in your soup as well as the silly song and the little the washing up song. And there was another sequence as well that was cut that where they were building a bed for Snow White, and it was
Yeah,
just
a bed for Snow White.
oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm glad
Yeah,
that they made those cuts because I think that would have just been dragging it out a bit too much.
yeah. So like I actually so the interesting thing about Music in Your Soup, I feel like it involves Snow White more in their
Mm.
antics because she's trying to teach them how to drink soup or eat soup like a gentleman, but they don't get it and they and they keep slurping and at some point she just shakes her head like I tried, Um
I've had
and
it with
it's
these
like
dwarves.
yeah, well it's like I tried, yes, they could slurp, yeah. But I feel like that would have but that more of Snow White being involved in the antics would have gone a long way to making it more about her too, and even about her bond with the dwarves. I would have liked to see more Snow White bonding with the dwarves in
Yeah.
general, because I do think it gets a little too distracted with just the dwarves sometimes. If I had a criticism about the sequences, I'd just add Snow White in. Having a straight man could be quite funny in these kind of
hmm
circumstances, you know? So why not? But I do believe cutting Music in Your Soup was probably for the best. I don't think that they could have cut the washing up song and still have Music in Your Soup because the way the sequence seems to have gone planned is it transitions like right into it,
Yeah.
which is way too much. But I like Music in Your Soup a little bit better than washing up.
But like you say, all the little gags and some of the details, like with the organ and the little things popping out of that, there
Oh,
are
I love
just
that.
yeah, some really beautiful details in this movie, which is so impressive. And then when you think about all of the things that are moving about on screen at the same time, like particularly the sequences with the animals chasing about, and there are all of these moving parts on this screen, and you think about, what the animators must have had to do
Right.
to get that like looking as smooth and seamless as it does. It's
Yeah.
really impressive.
It's also, you guys ever notice the background sequences or like the early Disney films have a lot of faces in them?
Mm-hmm.
It's
I don't think I
interesting.
thought about it, but now that you mention that, I do remember noticing little faces like in the woodwork, like
Yeah.
carved, like in Pinocchio too.
Yeah, Pinocchio as
hmm
well. I did kind of wonder if that was like kind of also adding to so like the liveliness of the scene is mentioned. I wonder if that also kind of adds to it. The background also seems kind of alive as well because
Yeah.
of these faces, but I don't know. I don't know the purpose.
I guess I just kind of assumed that they were basing it on pre-existing design aesthetics. Like I
Mm,
like I'm not obviously not an expert in like German architecture, but I just assumed that there must have been some sort of precedent in some kind of like early German house designs. I don't know.
Mm.
I think that was a them thing, but I'm not sure. I should do more research into that, but I don't because I
It
forget.
is possible that it is something that Disney invented. I've not thought about it beyond just like, well, that must have been, they must have seen something and then decided to base their designs off of that.
Anything else you want to talk about?
We could talk about the cast. Like the
Mm.
cast was it's interesting that they were all uncredited at the time, because I
hmm
guess that's just not how things were done back then to do a whole big long credits sequence.
Well, Walt specifically wanted Adriana Castellani, the voice of Snow White. He wanted her to be uncredited because he wanted this kind of like magical voice, and I guess it is the same for the whole cast of like they exist only within the movie,
hmm
Hmm.
which isn't great for
Yeah.
them. I don't,
No.
yeah, if someone made that stipulation of me, I'd just be like, no.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it was written
But
into a contract, wasn't it? Or there were
yeah,
some kind of obligations where it really damaged her career in terms of her not being able to pick
she
up as
couldn't do
much
anything
work.
else. Yeah,
Yeah.
she did do
Oh, she's
she
in The
did do
Wizard
a
of
bit.
Oz.
Yes, you got it. She did do that. Where art thou, Romeo? But
That's the
like
one.
that's it. And you know, it, it's difficult for me. I'm like, what would I do in that situation? Because this you are basically you have a piece in world history essentially by being Snow
hmm
White, but you can never do anything else. Would you do it? And she
That sounds like
loved,
a monkey's paw wish.
yeah, it does, yeah. It does, but she chose it and she loves being Snow White. I saw a documentary with her in her older age, and you could tell how much being Snow White meant to her. Like
Mhm.
her Snow White all over her house, her answering machine, like, hello, this is the voice of Snow White. Like,
That
um,
was really good.
oh, thank you. Yeah. I that's the first time I've heard someone say my Snow White impression is okay. But but just but the love she had for this character and her how grateful she was to play her, it was worth it to her, which I guess also adds to how wonderfully she played the character. I don't know if I would do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably would not myself, because not that I have any serious aspirations, but I've always thought it would be cool to be a voice actor. But if somebody told me you could be in one thing that you'll be famously known for and nothing else, I don't think I would do it because I would just assume that it would be so much fun I'd want to do more.
I
Oh, I
think I
would
would
do
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
thinking
do
about me realistically, like I know the smart answer is no, don't do it, but I'm also kind of like, yeah,
it.
but royalties.
Royalties, and you could do the, convention circuits and things like that. Yeah, I only need the one famous role to be able to go around traveling, meeting people, and doing all this sort of thing. Yeah, I'd do that. I'd do the monkey's paw wish to be Snow White, I guess.
Well, like to be honest, I know myself because the more I think about it, like I wouldn't be able. I'm not entertainment industry like network person. Like I don't want to network and keep doing it. So actually, that would be kind of perfect for me. I get a spot in history, and then I bow out. Like, yeah, I was awesome. All right, see you guys. I'm gonna go like live an average life
Yeah.
now. Um, like,
Yeah. But then again, I do like that Adriana Caselotti sort of got her flowers later on in life. Like you said, there was the
yeah.
documentary, and she was announced as a Disney legend, and
I think she was
it
the
felt
first female voice art
yeah,
artist to become a Disney legend.
yeah,
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
it's maybe in some ways it's too little too late in terms of recognition, but I'm glad that she enjoyed having that role, and yeah, I'm just glad that she kind of got the recognition for it that she deserved in the end.
And she was happy with it, so
Yeah.
it worked out for her.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say. I think I would feel differently if it was a case of Walt Disney forced her to never do anything ever again. But the fact that she didn't mind and she loved what she did and was happy through her entire life, that makes me feel better about the fact that she
Yeah.
didn't do much else. Because it does
Oh,
seem like a bad deal that she was given.
Mhm.
But I guess it's only a bad deal if you think it's a bad deal, and apparently she didn't. So
Mm.
apparently she also, I didn't know this, she did an uncredited role in Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life, singing in a Martini's bar as James Stewart is praying. And I didn't know that.
There you go.
I haven't seen that in a while. That'll be interesting to look for.
How did she manage to be in like all the iconic films of that time period? You
I
know what?
know, right?
She has it worked out somehow.
Three of the most important and biggest films ever. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I want to be her. I've decided she knows what's up.
I also love Lucille Laverne's performance
Oh
as the
yeah.
Queen, and in both forms, she brings so much character to the hag voice, but also the gravitas to the Queen. It's yeah, I think she's great.
Oh, I love the hack voice. But yeah, the Queen, just the way villains used to talk.
Hmm.
I don't,
Mm,
I'm not saying I want this back again because I actually don't know if I would, but just it's such a unique way that she just talks like just this really, I guess, posh kind of voice,
Yeah.
and it sounds so like controlling, and then she'll like snap and
Regal.
yeah,
hmm
regal. I
hmm
guess Lady Tremaine kind of had that voice too, because again, just saw Cinderella. But there's something about the evil queen, like her voice is just iconic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Maleficent as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all three of those. All yeah, I think Eleanor Audley was the voice actress who played both Lady Tremaine and Maleficent, if
Yes.
I remember rightly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Yes.
and Lucille Levan here, like they all have this, as you mentioned, almost kind of a sing-song quality to how they deliver their lines, which feels
Yeah.
theatrical, but it's right for this character. I love it.
Especially like when she's going through her book of spells, like talking in
Hmm
rhyme.
hmm
Because like in the wrong hands, this kind of role could be so cheesy.
hmm
But there's
Yeah.
something about her voice, the way she acts this character,
It's genuine.
it just feels right.
Yeah. With someone else, they could easily be just hamming it up.
Yeah.
But she's able to do it in a way where it's sincere
Hmm.
in a weird way. I don't know. It
hmm
worked. It wouldn't work as
hmm
well if someone else had done it.
It's sincere up until the point where she becomes the hag, and then she's kind of off the rails, and I love her for that.
And
The scene where
it's
she's
insane she does the witch voice too. Like, oh wow. So much talent.
yeah,
Yeah.
just everything about her after she becomes the hag is just great. Like she basically becomes a different character. Like it's the same actress doing a very good job at making it seem like a different voice. But I love her the way she talks to the crow, like teasing
Mm.
him about, hey, you want a bite of the poison apple, and then going down into the dungeon and like, thirsty, have a drink to the
Oh my God.
skeleton.
She's like, mask off.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
It's like she loves being this evil, ugly character. Just stay the evil, ugly character. Have fun with your life.
I'm actually, you know what? You know what would be interesting? Perspective of the evil queen. That would be fascinating.
Mm.
But she's so obsessed with her beauty, but then it's like she's living her life when she's a hag.
Yeah,
Like, hmm, what's going on? What's
Yeah. Would you not just enjoy living like this a bit more, you know?
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
happy now. You could drop it.
Yes, exactly. She's one of those characters that, like, I've said this about other people in other podcasts, but like, there are certain people who I probably wouldn't like them in real life, but as a character on film, I love this hag. Of the other voice actors, was there anybody else in the cast that you recognized? The only one really that stood out to me was Pinto Colvig as Grumpy, because he was like the original Goofy for the original Disney
Oh.
cartoons.
You know what? I actually didn't know that.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, but I was thinking the only other person who really stands out to me is Grumpy slash Pinto. So yeah. I love his characterization of Grumpy. To be honest, I have this thing for grumpy older men characters. Um, I don't maybe it's because my granddad died. Both of my granddads died when I was younger, so I never really had like a grandpa figure. But for some reason, I just love like this kind of character t trope, I guess.
Hmm.
And I think he does a very good job of being grumpy. It's grumpy, but it's very like charming.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
it's not cold.
Yeah, I think you can tell that underlying affection that he has for Snow White and the care that he really has for her underneath. And I think Grumpy, out of really out of all the characters in the whole movie, he is the one who has most of a character arc.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is the one who changes and grows the most as a character. And we see the different facets of him a bit more. Like when he's preparing himself to get a kiss from Snow White, and he's sort of rubbing his head, and he would never admit it to any of the other dwarves, and he has this demeanor of being grumpy and cantankerous, but he really does care. Yeah, he's probably the most notable one out of the dwarves in that respect.
Yeah, I love Grumpy. He's great. And yeah, I think Pinto's characterization, it's good that it was him because it's difficult to do this kind of character correctly because it could come
Hmm
off very cold and just like I don't like him, he's mean. But like Grumpy
hmm
is like he's like adults' favorite character, right? Like
Yeah.
the kids end up liking Dopey and like when you're an adult you like Grumpy. Um
He's more relatable the older you
yeah.
get.
Yeah, really. Which, speaking of, I'm not a big fan of Dopey, to be honest.
I
He's a
wasn't
kind of
really either this time. Uh, he was more like their pet than a person.
Hmm.
I don't know if that was
last
on
time I did
purpose,
watch
but
this, yeah, last time I did watch this again with my boyfriend, we were just like, "What's the family story here? Why is Dopey so much young?" We were just trying to come up with reasons for why Dopey was younger.
yeah, we don't
Yeah.
really know the backstory of the dwarves. Are they family, or are they just friends who have come together to live together because they're all dwarves?
Yeah, it's
Unclear.
unclear. Yeah.
Not really needed, but I feel like that would be an interesting perspective for a retelling from the
It
dwarves
would.
side.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's done that. And we came up with our own fanon, but you probably will never see the story of it. We're too lazy.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Dopey either. Although I did laugh when he's got the diamonds in his eyes and kind of
Oh,
reflect to
iconic.
that. That is a nice image. I
Yeah.
like that aspect.
Why do they mine for gems? That's never addressed either.
Hmm.
Wasn't there a line in one of the songs like they don't know why, they just do it?
I guess. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, they're pretty.
It's
Just
true.
that's just what dwarves do, I guess. They just want gems, which fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, I think these are supposed to be more like mythical dwarves rather than
Yeah.
human dwarves, because that is like a trope with mythical dwarves.
Well, as much as people roasted modern day Disney for being like, oh, they're magical creatures, these dwarves are meant to be magical creatures, so maybe it's like a that's just what appeals to them, like how dragons have hordes. That's just
Hmm.
what they do.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, I think there's lots of legends about dwarves mining for things. Like
Hmm.
True.
it changes based on the legend, but it's not out of left field for them to be
Hmm.
the magical dwarves mining for treasures.
Hmm.
Mm,
And that kind of accounts for how they have their own way of doing things as well. They're not these characters I don't think are human. I think they are like kind of mythical creatures in the respect that they have their own little uh, customs and traditions and ways of doing things. And that's why Snow White coming in and, trying to say, oh, okay, oh, this is how I would do things is yeah, that's maybe a bit of a different perspective on it.
I guess what I was getting from it was we don't really think about it this way, but it is a bit of a culture shock in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's people from two different worlds, and I suppose for Snow White as well, she's maybe had this life where before the stepmother, talk about fanning and like kind of coming up with an explanation for things, but and this isn't this isn't giving any spoilers for the new live action remake, but I suppose you could read into this 1937 film that maybe Snow White had quite a different life before the stepmother came into the equation and got her to work as a scullery maid, and so maybe Snow White has experienced more things than we ever actually see in the movie. But again, that's a lot of conjecture there. And then when she goes to live with the dwarves and is Mm, it's maybe not quite right that she's doing all the cooking and cleaning and doing all of this stuff for them so that they give her shelter. It feels like that's not really fair.
That she's doing the cooking and cleaning for shelter.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just there's
That's such a me thing I would do, though. I'd feel like you're letting me stay. I have to make up for it somehow. I'll do this. It's like, uh,
uh
I get why people don't like it.
Yeah, I get why the people don't like it nowadays, but I think that's probably the idea, especially because it is Snow White's idea in the movie. It's
yeah.
not like the dwarf said, "You can stay, but you have to do this, this, and this."
Yeah, she offers to do it. They don't ask her to do it,
Hmm.
Hmm.
or she doesn't even offer. She just does it.
Yeah, well, when she
Uh,
first gets there, she does, but then she later specifically tells them that since they're letting her stay there, she'll do cooking and cleaning. And well, when
yeah,
she says cooking, then they're all excited because I guess they don't cook for themselves very well.
yeah. But I don't know. I personally I don't have a problem with it because like I would also I don't know. I'm the kind of I need to contribute to where I'm staying kind of person. And if this is the way that would be easiest for me to do it, I'm going to do it.
I think
But
this is one of those
yeah,
things where Snow White kind of gets unfairly lumped into a bunch of other less well done versions of this character.
Mm,
I get why people don't like this characterization of making the woman do all the work for all the men.
yeah,
But like it's well, first of all, product of its time, but also
yeah,
it's still
that's true.
not that unrealistic, like to have someone want to do this kind of a thing. Like there are plenty of
I feel like a
people.
lot of people would, if they were in this situation, they would offer
Yeah,
to do this.
yeah,
So
exactly. Like it's not outside the realm of possibility to have someone offer to do this work in order for you to give them something, whether it's a place to stay or something else. Like, I mean, it's basic bartering, I guess, but it's not even that because like they're freely offering things to each other, and it's not like you have to do this or we won't do this, or it's like they're offering. Like it's another thing where a lot of old fairy tales, Disney in particular, I think gets lumped together with worse depictions of these characters,
yeah.
and it's one of those things where don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you know what I mean, like that. Like Snow White is a good version of this trope, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's a lot of people are looking at the broader view of
Yeah,
fairy tales and what it means, the messages that they are concerned that these fairy tales might be sending, which I mean is not. I'm not going to say that they're wrong for doing that because if you want to be considerate of the messages that you're giving to your children, by all means, consider it.
Mhm.
But I mean, in the context of the story, though, it does make sense for Snow White to offer this, to do this. And
yeah,
I think most people would want to do this kind of thing. But I could say if you don't feel empowered by Snow White offering to do this, that's fair. Like, I don't know. I do feel it's very unfair criticism of her, though, in particular. But, I don't agree that it's bad necessarily. I don't know.
yeah.
I'll tell you something when it comes to the cooking though. That's the bit where she's cutting the pie crust and then the birds come and the birds stick their dirty bird feet on the edge of the pie crust. I was like, get off my pie, birds.
See, as a See, as a kid, my brain would go, bird pie. Yeah, I want to eat birds. Help make it. I always wanted to eat the pie. It's very good.
It does look
I
good.
don't think that ever crossed my mind, but that's a fair observation.
Oh, God, Disney animated food at that time looked so good, though.
Yeah.
Pinocchio, like, I used to want to eat that food so bad.
It was the in Alice in Wonderland, it was the mushroom, weirdly, that
Really?
yeah. It kind of looked like a big slice of cake when she took a piece of mushroom. I was like, that's not really what mushrooms are like, but and I do like mushrooms nowadays, so
Ironically, I don't.
I don't think I've ever thought about it, but that scene where she rips off the piece, that I do like the way that's animated. I never thought about actually tasting it myself.
I have heard people like want to eat the mushroom. It's like, okay. I actually am not a fan of mushrooms, so I don't have that. It's the cookies that I would try. Like, yeah, I want
Oh
to eat the
yes.
cookies.
I
Yeah,
love mushrooms, but it's never crossed my mind to want to eat the mushroom from Alice in Wonderland. As much as I like the story, I've never thought about eating the mushroom.
you never
You
thought about like getting into the screen and eating that thing?
no. I think the thing that you think about eating is the cake and the drink me bottle.
Oh yeah,
That's what
I
you
wanna.
wonder what the taste of those are. I've never thought about the mushroom.
I would like to eat the cake too. Actually, yeah, that's a good idea. But anyway, we're off topic. Food. What the heck is a gooseberry pie? Like, what's a gooseberry?
When she's making the pie, the gooseberries are the little green. They looked like peas. I didn't realize that
Mhm.
they were gooseberries until she said gooseberry pie. I was like, oh, I guess because in my mind I was like, is she making a pie out of peas? That's maybe it's like a shepherd's pie or something. But no, it's gooseberries. They're little green berries.
We don't have them
They're
here.
not very common. They used to be a
Yeah.
thing more back then.
Mhm.
I'm sure they still sell them. It's probably a regional thing because there are certain fruits that can't ship well.
Mm.
Because I don't
Mhm.
think we have them in Iowa. If we do, they're not where I am.
Yeah. They don't seem to me to be like a particularly Germanic thing either. Like if this is supposed to be kind of Germany, except that they've got raccoons, which they don't have in Germany, but you know.
I
Oh
didn't
my
Um
even
gosh,
think of
my
that.
boyfriend is English. We were watching. He was just like, "This is a weird American
yeah.
European mashup. That none of
Yeah.
these creatures would are in North American forests." And I was like, you know, what? I never thought of it.
Yeah, but yeah,
I was just like, forest. It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
yeah, maybe. So I guess we haven't really talked about the prince at all. Um,
Oh yeah.
he's in this
So
movie too.
yeah, the prince. Which, by the way, everyone's like Prince Florian. No, it's just the prince. He doesn't have a name.
Where did
Just the
Um,
Florian come
prince.
from? Because I know people call him Prince Florian nowadays, but where did that come from?
No, well, okay. I know initially people thought it was like Ferdinand or something because, and this is so obscure, but when Shirley Temple gave the Academy Award, like the Specialty Academy Award to Walt Disney for Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, she said something like for Snow White and Ferdinand and all the others, something like that. And for some people thought Ferdinand must be the prince's name, and but it's actually it was a Disney short that they
Oh,
came
it's
out with
Ferdinand the
that
Bull.
yeah,
Oh,
that
Ah,
okay.
actually
okay.
yeah, that was actually pretty it did well. Everyone forgets about that short. So people thought it was Ferdinand because of that, which is really obscure and nerdy and dumb at the same time. So it was not Ferdinand. I don't know where Florian came from. I have no idea where that came from.
I
Um
wonder if that came from because I think there must have been a book about the development and making of Snow White, or maybe some kind of promotional material. Because I remember the name Grimhilda being used for the Queen,
yeah,
and so I wonder if like Florian came from that same source or
maybe
something
because even
similar.
Queen
Yeah.
Grimhild, I do remember that apparently was talked about possibly being her name in concept. But that didn't
Hmm.
end up like her. The queen's name is officially the Evil Queen. It's
The
not.
Evil
She
Queen.
doesn't have
Yeah.
the. She doesn't have the name. So like it does possibly Florian might be from an earlier concept. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
All I know is he's the prince. I will say I've seen a lot of criticism about the love story in this that they see each other, then they're in love, and it gets made fun of enough. Like even later, Disney like made fun of it in Frozen. Like you cannot marry a man you just met, you know,
Hmm.
essentially. I think it's a tiny bit, you know, like yeah, but I think it's a tiny bit unfair because like the fairy tale is worse. Um, they did
Yeah.
not meet beforehand. This is actually something that's from the silent film Snow White. Snow White and the prince actually had quite a bit of time to get to know each other before everything happened. And in this, actually, I would say the prince and Snow White have a little less time than they did in the silent film. However, it establishes that they already like each other. Because in case you're unaware, anybody listening, the original version of the fairy tale has it that he only comes across the living corpse of Snow White, thinks it's beautiful, and wants to take it home with him, which sounds weird, but it actually wasn't that weird back then. Some bodies somehow like managed to preserve well into death, and people would be like fascinated and would like want to see it. I mean, that's where like the whole thing about like saints remains comes from. Like
Hmm.
people liked to see dead people. And anyway, he basically just wanted her as like a decoration piece in a sense, or a conversation piece.
A museum piece.
Kind of, yeah. Like, look at this really well-preserved dead woman. It's like she's alive. And then he actually doesn't kiss her in the original. The cart she's on like goes over like a bump in the road and it dislodges the apple from her throat and she wakes up and they end up getting married. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't do that because it's very unromantic. um,
Clunk, yeah.
yeah,
Spitting the apple out.
yeah. It like there's no kiss at all. Um, so it's very unromantic. but also our attitude about death has really changed. I think death was so much more common when this fairy tale was first told. So like, hearing that a prince is taking a dead body as a conversation piece, essentially, we're like, yeah, that makes sense. Back then to them. But to us, it's like, what? Why would he do that?
Mhm.
Is something wrong with him? Um, but also we like our love stories to be a bit more like organic now, which I agree with. So I don't know. I just think it's so weird for people to get hung up on this love story aspect of it when it's actually a fix of the original fairy tale, and they would like that even less.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
It's one of those things, like, I don't like using this as a blanket excuse for everything, but you have to think of the time that it was created. And
yeah,
even with that explanation about the old fascination with death, that's a product of that time that the original story was created. So I think it's unfair to criticize old stories based on modern standards.
yeah. Though I will say it would have gone a long way if they had somehow implied that maybe they known each other as children and he was seeing her again as, older. That might have
Probably.
been
Mm.
nice.
Hmm.
Yeah. But, I do think it's unfair for people to judge it. Yeah, like you said, that applying modern standards onto it. When
Hmm.
at the time they were applying modern standards onto the original fairy tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and again, another thing that I don't like to use as a blanket excuse for everything, but also this is a fairy tale. You don't necessarily need to have it make perfect sense as
Yeah.
we would nowadays narratively. Like it's fine that they had true loves, like love at first sight and their true love's first kiss. Like it's a fairy tale. It's not something that I think people should get hung up on and get upset over.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
As for his personality, I will say we don't see much of his personality, and that is a little bit of a bummer for, quote unquote, because Snow White and Cinderella as well, and Sleeping Beauty, kind of get, we kind of say they're love stories, but
Hmm.
they're not really, in the sense of we really get to see, them bond and love each other. I mean, the prince is kind of a blank slate. That's not to say I dislike him. I kind of wish we saw him a bit more, but
Yeah.
I do like how romantic he is. I think it's sweet. I love the song he sings to her. Yeah, so I wish we saw a little bit more of his personality. Shout out to this is random, but there was a Snow White performer at Disneyland. She kind of had a characterization of the prince when talking about him that made him sound so cute whenever she talked about him. I remember she had someone had asked her once like, what are your plans for Valentine's Day? She said, the prince and I want to throw a Valentine's Day party for the dwarfs to thank them. And he has all these soft feathers that he's gonna put. So if Sleepy falls asleep anywhere, there'll be something soft for him to sleep on. I was like, wow, you're making the prince sound so sweet and considerate.
Aw.
like, you know. um, but it's like I do kind of wish we were able to see a bit more of his personality beyond just being romantic, but it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Well, there was a sequence, wasn't there, which was cut from the final film where he was imprisoned in the Queen's dungeon, and there
Oh
was
yeah.
something to do with a skeleton and all this kind of stuff, and it was like they kind of repurposed that for Sleeping Beauty. But yeah, even just having him do something that wasn't directly related to Snow White might have, yeah, just given us a little bit more of a sense of his personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to talk about to possibly contrast with the later live action film. Hard for me to think of it because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, same.
So I
Oh,
have
but
seen it. One thing that is worth talking about, which is quite different from how they do things in the live action remake, is music.
oh
So
yeah.
we've kind of touched on a couple of the songs that are in this 1937 film,
Mm,
but the way that music works in this film, and again, it was kind of experimental, this. It was building on what had been done in Silly Symphonies and the fact that they would like record the score and animate to that and this kind of thing.
Mm,
Um, but the songs they emerge from the score. Do you know what I mean? It's like rather than feeling like separate songs, they flow into the rest of the music of the movie.
hmm.
And I think some of them are a little bit strange structurally, the songs, but nice. You know, I like the score of Snow White, and it is just interesting to listen to and to compare to something the like Beauty and the Beast or The Little Mermaid, the later Renaissance films where it was structured more like a Broadway musical, and you would have the I Want song, and you would have, you know, songs that were fulfilling a particular purpose. This is like quite an early, you know, it's a different thing. There are maybe some things that are like early versions of those, but
Hmm.
in contrast with the live action remake, which is very much okay, let's reconfigure things so that it feels a little bit more like a conventional film musical compared to the 1937 film.
Hmm.
Well, you've intrigued my interest on that. I will say I have heard "Waiting on a Wish" from the live action film,
Hmm.
and I don't remember at all, so I don't feel like I'm that spoiled for it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Waiting on a Wish is a good example. Like if you, because it basically replaces the song I'm Wishing, right? And
yeah,
it's a good example because I'm Wishing is kind of a weird song if you think about it in and of itself. And sort of repetitive and then it leads directly into the Princess song, whereas Waiting on a Wish is more like a conventionally structured pop song with verses and choruses that you would hear, you know, something that plays on the radio. So yeah, I guess
yeah.
that's
Like
it.
I like "I'm Wishing" though. Like it
Yeah.
feels. If I was at a wishing well, it feels like something I would sing to hear the echo. Like
Uh-huh.
I do agree. It is actually quite a few of the songs are a bit odd in terms
Hmm.
of the wider context of like movie music. Though I feel like they kind of add to the fairy tale aspect of the movie at the same
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They feel more, I don't know what the word is,
Kind of organic in a way, don't they? They
like
feel like they're
yeah,
part of the, yeah.
like I'm wishing. It's her literally using the wishing well to sing back to herself,
Hmm.
and
It's also one of those things that is a product of its time. It helps the movie feel like it is a 1930s film, and I like
yeah,
it for that.
yeah. I think the music works, and they're pretty iconic songs. You got "Hi Ho." Um, to be honest, I think that's probably the most iconic song. Um,
Hmm.
even
Probably.
over some, even over "Someday My Prince Will Come." To be honest, I don't really. I feel like that's one of the weaker songs, but it's still pretty iconic. It's better than "Washing Up" or whatever that song's called.
I always
Um,
I always forget about that song, and then watching it this time, I was like, "Oh yeah, this," and then that scene just keeps going. I think that
why
was the
does
part where I
no
got the
one
most bored.
cover? Why does no one cover "Washing Up"? You telling me they don't want to? They don't want to sing
Actually,
that?
if somebody did that, I would actually like that. Because, like, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I was obsessed with those Disney Mania CDs when I was a teenager.
Oh
Oh
Like,
yeah,
wow.
I would have loved that would have been a hilarious addition if somebody had covered that. Because, like, in one of them, they covered The Monkey's Uncle, which is from a movie that hardly anybody remembers. It was the theme song to a movie called The Monkey's Uncle. Like, I loved when they would include something obscure on those. So I would have
yeah.
loved if somebody had covered the washing song.
Oh, okay. So it's actually called Blooda Oodle Dum. So it is the
Blah, 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 yeah.
yeah, the dwarves washing song in subtitle. So everyone calls it the washing song because no one could go over,
Yeah.
The silly song is okay. Whistle While You Work, again, iconic. I'm noticing a lot of these songs for Snow White are very like based from an organic kind of thing that people do. So you have the I'm singing to a wishing well to hear it sing back to me with the echo. And then you have I'm gonna whistle while I'm working.
Mhm,
Um, I don't know, just interesting to notice.
mhm.
I like With a Smile in a Song. I guess it's also kind of a weak song, but I like it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
like
think
it.
it's a good break from the darkness that just occurred before it, kind of transitioning into a more lighter tone. And then also it's part of what makes endears her to the animals that are witnessing the song. And I feel like it's so reminiscent of a lot of people's attitudes during the 1930s. Again, like there's darkness and there's no use in grumbling. You have to remember you're the one who can fill the world with sunshine.
Hmm.
And that's a message a lot of people don't, I would say a lot of people probably don't like anymore, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad message. I don't know. I think it's an interesting message that resonated more with them at the time. And
Yeah.
I think it still can. I love one song, and those are all my hot takes on the song. Yeah. One song's the best song, personally, for me. What can I say? I love songs.
Mhm. And the thing at the end of one song when there's that the kind of like reprise of one song at the end where it's the big
Yeah.
orchestra comes in and then you've got the backing vocals which seemed like very specific to Disney films from the 30s
Yes.
through to like the 50s where they go oh in the back in the
Yeah.
background like
And
over
I
the
think that
orchestra.
I feel like that was like kind of a common characteristic of films at that time that we
Mhm.
kind of lost, but we only really get exposed to from by Disney films.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's just something so magical about the in the
Mhm.
background. Like, why don't we have choral arrangements anymore?
Again, that would be something that, not that I want them to like completely go backwards, but like once in a while, just make a movie with more of the things from the old Disney movies, and that would be one of the elements that they could include. Just a really
That was
good
what Wish
background
was supposed
choir.
to be. Wish was supposed to do that. My goodness. Anyway,
Oh, wish. Wow. That's a discussion for another day.
yeah, I'll try not to go on a tangent, but like watching the film was really like, Wish could have done that. Wish could have done this. Yeah, I'm wishing that Wish could have done this. You know.
There's lots of
Anyway,
things that Wish could have done, but didn't.
yeah. But regardless, anyway, back to focusing on Snow White. Yeah, it's a solid soundtrack. It's not my favorite Disney soundtrack, but there is something beautiful and really sweet about it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And overall, this is just like a sweet film. It makes the formula for the rest of the Disney movies. Main character, not necessarily a princess, but people love their princesses. You have the bad guy. You have a little sidekick for the bad guy. You have the sidekick for the main character. In this case, Snow White has a lot of sidekicks. She has animals and dwarfs. And yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of iconic.
I never really thought about it before, but I bet Snow White would hold the record for the most sidekicks in a Disney film.
Yeah, yeah. I can't even count them all. There's too many.
They went
So
big on the
few.
first one and they can't top themselves.
Yeah, even Cinderella doesn't have as many sidekicks as she does. But then again, she has a lot of mice. They might they might be able to challenge each other. But Cinderella kind of had to win her animals' love, whereas Snow White kind of charms them to it rather easily. So if they were close, I bet she could charm more animals to win. Thank you for having me on your podcast. These are important things everyone needs to hear.
You mentioned the scene with right after the dark scene at the beginning, but we didn't talk about the actual scene in the woods.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Mm.
That
How
scene
could
is
we?
so brilliant. I love the way they do that with all the creatures that may or may not actually be creatures.
This
Yeah,
is where the background painting with kind of I'm so sorry, but where the eyes really come in.
Mm,
Um, it's like it is at show here, and it fits in with the rest of the world too. Just like the eyes everywhere in the forest.
yeah, again, it's one of those sequences that it is quite intense and it's so dramatic and yeah, just every aspect and the eyes watching everywhere. Again, it's something that they don't quite do justice to in the live action remake. Not to bring that up, but yeah,
Somehow I'm not surprised. I don't feel spoiled by that. No.
yeah, but
A live
but
action remake not being as good as the original? Gasp!
oh, imagine that, yeah, but
Someone's like, why wasn't it as good as they didn't have the eyes and the trees in the background?
no, exactly. But yeah, it's one of those ones where I think it's something about animation where it can be a little bit more expressive,
Hmm.
and the things like the eyes in the trees looking like the trees themselves have eyes, but actually when you look at it, it's like partly her imagination and partly like the animals and the trees and all this sort of stuff. That sort of works in animation, and I think it just doesn't quite register the same way in live action.
Hmm.
I think you're right.
Um,
It's something that can only be done in animation and look
yeah,
good.
yeah. But again, it's such an evocative sequence, and yeah, another really memorable one for me when I was a kid which scared me, but I loved it all the same.
I don't remember being scared by it as a kid, but I remember thinking that parts of it were cool. Like, I
Hmm.
liked the alligator logs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those the alligator logs are the best part. Oh, I feel like there's a pun you can make here. Logator? Oh,
Mm.
no. I'm not good at
Log gator.
a logator. Yeah. That I'm good at recognizing that things can be puns, but not good at following through. Um, but anyway, yeah, my brain. Okay, I can't remember the first time I watched this movie, but part of me wonders if maybe this traumatized me and I blocked out my. No, it's just because I'm too young. But it's interesting. I think growing up with it, as we've been privileged to be able to do, it must be kind of interesting to hear from somebody who didn't grow up with it. But I grew up with it. I never found it scary as a kid because I was kind of already used to it by the time I was able to like actually watch it. You know what I mean? Like I was desensitized to it. And it's interesting seeing kids nowadays like play actual horror games and being unaffected by it.
Different kids get scared by different things. Like, there's a lot of things people will say they were traumatized by seeing as a kid, but I think back and it's like, that didn't bother me. But then, like the scene in Aladdin where Genie briefly turns into a zombie, I had nightmares for months about that.
Oh.
So different things affect different kids different ways.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like sometimes there's just like little, or like paintings or something that scare you as a kid. And it's like, well, I don't really understand the reasoning behind that,
Hmm.
but yeah, I like that you've got these sequences in this movie that are scary. And going back to what we talked about earlier on about how there seems to be less risk taking in filmmaking generally nowadays, or in studio films. Yeah, I think, and this is something that we talk about on our podcast quite a lot with 80s and 90s fantasy films.
Mm.
I feel like we've lost a little bit of that element where it's healthy for films and for children or for family audiences to include things that are a bit scary and a bit threatening and have that element of danger to them because I think it is quite healthy for kids to be able to react to something. It's it is harmless. It is something that but I think it sort of teaches empathy and like what it means to be scared and how to feel that and how to respond to that in the moment. So, yeah, I would
A lot of
like to
kids
see.
like to be scared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I would like to see a little bit more of that because I think so much of the entertainment for kids nowadays feels a little bit safe, if you see what I
Really,
mean, or a little bit bland.
see
Yeah.
like I feel like actually a lot of well, I don't know, it's weird, right? I feel like what a lot of kids absorb nowadays is horror oriented.
Mm.
Like maybe last year, now I feel like an aged goblin. I don't know, but like they were all into the Poppy Playtime, which is like a horror game or
Yeah.
something. And I was like, I don't understand. I would have been I could never when I was a child, I could never be into this because when I was a child it was very so like early 90s was very sanitized, at least from my perspective. I can't remember anything my parents put in front of me that would have been classified as a horror game or a horror show or anything. But these kids are like watching it on the daily. I don't know. I feel like if anything, they're not monitored enough nowadays.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Um,
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah, it's a weird balance though, because at the same time, I'm like being a little bit scared is good, and kids like to be a little bit scared. But like when's it too much? When are we being too sanitized? It's a difficult balance every parent has to face, I think, as well as society as a whole. Snow
Mhm.
White, I think, is fine, and I think what makes it good too is like even if a child is scared by the sequence, there is lightness afterwards,
Yeah.
which is part of what the smile in the song is supposed to help
Yeah.
with. Like, yes, life gets scary, but we continue on. It's there's where there's dark, there's also light. Like being a little deep here, but that is essentially what the song is about.
Hmm.
So I think Snow White is fine. It's perfect. I think most kids are not going to find it scary anymore. But I was like, I don't know if you're aware, but at Disneyland we redid the Snow White Scary Adventures into Snow White's Enchanted Wish,
Hmm.
which I kind of get, but at the same time I kind of hated
Yeah.
because like we had this like little dungeon in the queue where it's like the where the evil queen prepared her potion. Well, that's too scary now. So now it's Snow White's bedroom. And it's like, okay, I guess. But
Mhm.
was anybody really that scared by a dungeon that had nothing in it except for like props? Or even the ending? I thought the ending of the original ride was hilarious. So when I say original ride, it had already been revised, but the way the ride ended when I was growing up was Snow White eats the apple, the dwarves chase the hag to the cliff, she falls off and dies, and then that's the end. Snow White never wakes up, and it's hilarious. And but Enchanted Wish they changed it so she does wake up and there's a finale, which I'm like, I guess. But like part of some of the rationale for it was that to take out to like not make it scary anymore. And I was just like, it was barely scary to begin with.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just people are it's very interesting. Walt Disney World version of Snow White, that's gone. I saw a video of the original Walt Disney World version, and it is nuts. It is absolutely crazy. Like the witch is just basically stalking you, and you hear like over and over and over. It's scary. I was like, this is what's actually scary. What the heck?
Yeah.
No wonder why they named it Scary Adventures. And then in the 90s, they transformed them to not be as scary. It's like things were sanitized for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I wrote that it must have been just before they did the rework in the 90s, so yeah.
Oh, you got to see the original.
I think
Nice.
I, I think I had the original experience, yeah.
Yeah, the original Disneyland Snow White is long gone. There's no, the archival stuff that's left is not the full ride and not like in a ride vehicle as far as I know. It's just it would have been too dark to catch on camera. Same thing with Alice in Wonderland for that matter, which is also has been drastically changed from the original. But yeah, so like the Snow White, but it would have been very similar to the Walt Disney World original ride. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay. I think I would have been terrified as a child. I was a scaredy cat, which is kind of weird why the forest scene didn't disturb me, but I guess I must have desensitized early.
Oh, I think that's the thing. Like I was scared, but I loved being scared in that kind of context, and I love horror films now, so
I'm quite picky on my horror. I will be like totally fine with some things. I'll even love some horror. And then some other horror, I'm just like, no, 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 no.
uh
Too
no
much.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends. I like really atmospheric horrors or
Mm.
like I guess more psychological horror as well, that kind of
Mm.
stuff. Yeah.
For me, I mostly say I don't like horror, but I think I just don't like horror if it has a bad ending, and I know a lot of ones do. Like if there's
Mm.
a movie that's like mostly horror but then has a good ending, then I'm fine with it. It's just if I know going into something it's going to have a bad ending, I probably wouldn't even go into it because I don't like a bad ending. If like the whole movie
Hmm.
is traumatizing and it has a bad ending, it's like, well, what's the point then?
Yeah, I hear you.
Just to be sad. I don't know what the point is. There's some movies, some horror movies that are just end ambiguously, but we're getting a bit off topic. Snow White's not a horror movie as far as I'm aware. I do believe they made one at some point, but not by Disney. Um,
Yes, Snow White, A
yeah.
Tale of Terror.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
I put
Uh,
that on my list as a maybe to cover on the podcast. I don't know that I'll actually get to that this time, but I
that would be
did find that
interesting to
one.
hear from you.
yeah, we are definitely going to do it on Once Upon a VHS. So that's so that will be coming soon. Our episode
All
on that.
right.
So
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll listen to your podcast and then decide if I
then
want to
decide
watch
whether you
it.
watch it. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. It's got
That's
Sigourney
fair.
Weaver in it as the Queen, and yeah, she gives
Oh,
quite a
that
good
was
performance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I did see some
Hmm.
pictures from that one. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be worth a watch. Yeah, you could listen and decide from there.
I mean, I've watched other movies for the podcast that I didn't like. Like there's a horror movie version of The Grinch, which I didn't like as a movie, but it was a fun podcast to make. Like for a lot of those, it all depends on what I'm going to get out of it. Like if I get a good discussion out of it, then I find it's worth it to watch it, even if I didn't actually like the experience of watching it.
Yeah, but at the same time, like this is a hobby. Like
Yeah.
if you aren't happy with it, I get not doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's up to you. Personally, I would. Anything else we want to talk about?
I think we've touched most of the things. I think my biggest takeaway is I always forget how good the film is. Like
Yes.
Hmm.
just the opening scene, like the animation started, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing." And then
Every
anything with
single
the Evil
time,
Queen,
every
she's
single
great.
time I forget how gorgeous this film is. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
and I think to myself, I'll remember next time how gorgeous it is, and then I'll watch it again. Just like, oh yeah, this is gorgeous. Why don't I watch this more often?
exactly.
But
Yes.
it's actually, I think, in a way, I do know. It's because I love having this rediscovery every single time I watch it. That I know it's gorgeous, but like I forget just how gorgeous till I see it again.
Yeah.
And I love that I still have that in a sense.
Hmm.
So I watched it again this year, and it's gonna be like another 3 years before I watch it again, and I'll enjoy it as just as much then too.
Yeah, it's a good one to keep fresh, I suppose. I'm not a huge person for rewatching movies over and over and over again,
Mm.
but yeah, that last time when I saw the movie on the big screen in the cinema, that was really, yeah, I was really kind of blown away by some of the
You got
sequences,
to
like you
watch
say.
this on the big screen?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, I'm jealous.
yeah, yeah. It
I
was
need
really.
to I need to figure that out. I need to do that.
But yeah, it was so special and seeing as much as I said earlier on, some of the dwarf sequences go on a bit long, and
Mm,
when you think about what a massive achievement this movie
Hmm.
was,
yeah.
um, that just really puts things into perspective. And the fact that yeah, they were trying something that was so radically different that it's kind of understandable that they thought, oh, okay, we'll maybe do something that's a little bit like Silly Symphonies in the middle, and we'll maybe have this bit and we'll maybe have that. So I think overall, really, my takeaway is that this is such a huge phenomenon that it's hard to be subjective about it. So all I can say is that when next time I watch it, I'll maybe try and be a little bit more patient with the dwarves. But I've always loved the beginning and ending of this film.
Hmm.
So um, yeah, it is one that I'm looking forward to revisiting in time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that is probably all we have to say about the original Snow White for now. I think we will be back at some point to talk about a lesser version.
Well, a different version.
A different
I'm
version.
I'm gonna be open to it,
I'll try
but
to be optimistic.
yeah.
I'm not getting my hopes up. I have a feeling I will not like it as much, but maybe it'll surprise me. Who knows?
Yeah, my the bar is on the floor. But I feel like I'm pretty decent at giving things a chance in regards to different adaptations, so we'll see what happens. Um, though that said, I am kind of tired of Disney live action remakes. This is actually the live action remakes that makes them stop making them. Then thank you for your sacrifice, Snow White. Um, but well, but again, I have very mixed different opinions on the different live
Yeah.
action remakes. But I'm open to giving it a fair shake. I found things I liked in some of them, so
For
I
the
will be
most
fair.
part, the worst I can say is that they're okay. I think Pinocchio is the one that broke me. Like
Oh no, Pinocchio was the worst, and I will
Yeah.
stand on the hill so far. That's been the worst one I've seen yet.
that
Yeah.
one I feel like it ages poorly by the day because like when I first watched it I was like, okay, well this isn't as bad as everyone was saying, but I still don't like it. But the more that I think back on it, it's like, why did they do that? And why did they do that? And why did they do that? This is
I
Yeah.
immediately got irritated, like right away, just as the movie started with Jiminy Cricket. I had to stop the movie and I quit. I don't know. There was just something so irritating about Jiminy Cricket to me that I couldn't watch it. And then I came back the next day and I have nothing else to do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Pinocchio.
I almost stopped again. I was like, no, let's just get this over with.
Yeah, so as the only one of the three of us who has seen the Snow White live action remake, I would
Mm.
say on a scale of Pinocchio being the absolute worst of the live action remakes to I would say Cinderella is probably for me that's my favorite of the live action remakes, so I would put that at the
Yeah, it's
top.
funny thing is I always argue with people who say that's a live action remake. I'm like, no, it's not. It was an
Mm,
adaptation of the Cinderella story that Disney produced with homages to the Disney Cinderella. It's not meant to be a live action remake, but
hmm
technically people count it. So yeah.
hmm hmm But I
Yeah.
think that's the thing. I think because yeah, that was another adaptation. It did things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
were different to. Yeah, I think some of the live action remakes are just a bit too tied to the originals,
There
and that's like, yeah,
yeah,
why are
the
we
reason why
bothering?
that one works is because it's trying its own thing.
Yeah,
It's telling the story in its own way.
yeah,
Just with like, yeah, we have done this story before. Here's like little tidbits, but we're not remaking the Disney Cinderella.
hmm
yes,
And then somewhere along the line, it turned to remaking hit movies because those hit movies were successful. That's
yeah,
that's where
absolutely,
my problem lies. I think the live quote unquote live action Cinderella is perfectly fine.
yeah.
And the reason probably why it's so successful is because it's not tied to the Disney Cinderella.
hmm hmm
I think the
And
best ones are the ones that just have nods to the film instead of just trying to be the film but a different version.
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, sorry, what you were saying. What's your rating?
Oh, so yeah, so what I would say is that Snow White, and this will, yeah, I don't want to spoil anything or maybe cue up
Mhm.
your expectations for it, but what I would say is that they do, I think most people, going into it would be aware that they have made changes. I would say some of them work and some of them really don't work. It's just kind of a
Mm.
mixed bag, and it's just kind of a different thing that they've put together. So. Yeah, but with
In the
that said,
middle?
I would say it kind of in the middle because it's
Mm.
not, yeah, it's not the low lows of Pinocchio, but it's not as good as something like Cinderella.
It
So
would be hard to be as bad as Pinocchio, to be fair.
yeah, that's you'd really have to try.
Yeah. I like how everyone's ignoring how bad the Pinocchio remake is, and it's like, yo, there's a reason why it's on Disney Plus, not theatrical. They knew that would be bad. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So, but what you're saying is pretty much what I'm expecting. I'm expecting it to be a mixed bag, but I will be fair. You did a great job, like just kind of tipping us in without spoiling it. So, thank you.
That's all right. Yeah, yeah.
I know it's a
Hopefully
hard
that's
line.
yeah. Hopefully it kind of gives you the enough to set your expectations. So
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we will be back to talk about that one probably sooner than we realize, but
Mhm.
until then, do you guys want to let people know where they can find you if they'd like more from you? Callum?
Sure, yes. So Once Upon a VHS, an 80s and 90s fantasy podcast, which I host with Michael. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're also on social media like Instagram and Blue Sky. So Once Upon a VHS.
Okay, and Jenna?
You don't want to find me, but if you did, it's going to be Still Johnson Phantom Lines on YouTube or Love Death of a Fairy Tale on YouTube. I haven't posted anything in years. That's why you don't want to find me. Yeah.
Okay, well, we will see you again soon for more Snow White.
All right. See you real soon.
See you then.
Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My Linktree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.